skip a day because I was having a little birthday celebration and didn't want to not be here and not present. But we are back on track with every other Thursday now, come April 25th. Now, before we get started, I want to go ahead and announce our president. She is on our line. She can give us any updates and any announcements. Go ahead, President Rhea.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Parisha. I hope you had an amazing birthday. I can't believe you were turning 50. I was like, oh no, you look so young. I was like the 50th. So live it up, girl. So I just want to welcome everyone to this week's Power Hour and let you know that we just finished out Realtist Week not so long ago. And I have to say that Realtist Week partnered with the Black Wealth Tour from National. It was amazing. There were so many activities throughout the week from all of our 11 boards across the state, not including the nationwide Black Wealth Tour that Saturday. So we are definitely empowering our members with the branding and enrichment of our communities all at the same time. So empower, enrich, and elevate. So that I think we did an excellent job of that, and I look forward to that continued success. Now coming up, it doesn't stop. We just came off of Fair Housing Day, partnered with CAR on that, partnered with CAR on the Broker Summit, and now we have another partnership with CAR on Legislative Day. So we are headed to Sacramento, you guys. Next week, we are headed to Sacramento for Legislative Day, where we get to meet face to face with our state representatives and network with other real estate professionals on what we find to be passionate about our industry. So that starts on Monday. So look out for an email from us or a social media post where we will post all of the exciting events that are surrounding around Legislative Day. Not to mention, we have our own networking mixer on May 1st at the Dive Bar in Sacramento. So that is free for you guys to attend. You guys get a couple of drink tickets. We get to network and celebrate our wins from Legislative Day. So be sure to look out if you can make it to Sacramento or you know other real estate professionals in the area that want to come out to our networking mixer on May 1st at the Dive Bar from 7 to 11 or 7 to midnight. Something around there. I'm pretty sure we'll keep the party going until midnight, but come out and celebrate, and I'll send it over back to you, Parisha.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Rita. And so, Ethel, are you there? Did you get the ability to screen share? Ethel?
And it looks like she's on mute. So Ethel, you're on mute.
Okay. Hello.
Okay. Hello. All right.
My screen. All this multitasking. Oh my God. Okay.
No, that's all right. You got it. You got it.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you a slight introduction, and then you're gonna take it over from there.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So Ethel Sims is a broker out of San Diego, and I'm only gonna paraphrase. If I'm leaving out something, please let me know. Okay. Is a broker out of San Diego. She is also our California Association of Real Estate Brokers parliamentarian and also the chair of our 501c3. So today she's going to give us some information on 501c3s, how it can help us, and go ahead and take it away, Ethel. We are so thankful for you.
Hello, my name is Dr. Ethel Sims. I'm not the parliamentarian for the CAREB organization. I am the chaplain at the state level. And so hopefully that's not considered a parliamentarian position. I come with grace and mercy and peace. And so it's a real honor to serve on the 501c3 chair committee. At this time, I do want to thank Sharon Robinson, actually, who started this committee at the last leadership, and we kind of worked together and then passed the baton to me. And so it has been a team building experience, not to say the least. And so I just want to kind of like rehash and share what it means to be, what is a 501c3. And I'm going to share my screen now. Share screen. Okay, there I am. Now here we go. There we go. Bring it down here. It just wanted to join me for support. Okay. What is a 501c3? CAREB Realtist Foundation is actually the name of this public charitable tax exemption 501c3. It says foundation, but the designation is not that it is a 501c. It's really a designated entity, a nonprofit, charitable, tax exemption 501, and that should be a C3 in front of that, C3. Organization. We chose the name foundation because it means that you actually bring something charitably to bring to others for the benefit of others. And so just because it's a foundation doesn't mean that we are a foundation by right of the entity at the state, because that's another different type of, it's a nonprofit status, but we can use the word foundation just like you could use the word family, so to speak. That's how we chose that. The name contains the word foundation, like I said, but it should not be confused with the filing, which is the exemption status as a 501c3 entity or organization. As a 501c3 nonprofit organization, can everyone see these bullets? There's 3 of them. We want to just reiterate that we're not a privately owned foundation just because the word foundation is there instead of organization or entity. It was the philosophy of a foundation, not the operations of a foundation, because they're usually privately owned and operated with control and governance by a group of related people, like I said, a family business or some type of legacy, who draw the majority of their support from within themselves. They're the major source of income, their resources, and the internal operations. But a 501c3 charitable organizations like CAREB will be getting more support from government entities and public donations. Typically, 1/3 of the financial support comes from the general public, which is actively acquired from solicited contributions from diverse sources. Funds may be designated to serve public, not private individual needs, as a charitable purpose for serving a targeted public population, a group of people based on our mission statement or the mission statement of the nonprofit. How do we get started? Starting the process of obtaining a 501c3 status for your nonprofit organization involves several steps. And believe me, Sharon and I can say it's several steps. It's going to look real easy here and simplistic, and it can be, but it is still a task that has to put a lot of people and processes together in order for the words to go onto a major application. And we'll talk about that later. So first, you have to understand the requirements. Familiarize yourself with the eligibility criteria and requirements for obtaining a 501c3 tax exempt status from the IRS. It's a tongue twister. It's 501, then it's the letter C, then 3, because sometimes we get confused and say it wrong. So 501c3. We have to ensure that the organization meets certain qualifications that are necessary for the state and the federal to approve it at the government level. 2, we incorporate your nonprofit by creating a legal entity, which is also a name, and you can start at the state level, which is where we started in 2022 under Sharon's direction for the 501c3. Then they choose a suitable legal structure, such as a corporation or a trust, and register the organization with the appropriate state authorities, which was the State Franchise Tax Board and the Secretary of State. You develop your mission and your bylaws, clearly define your nonprofit's mission, goals, and activities. We draft bylaws that outline the organization structure, the governance procedures, and operational policies of your nonprofit. Then 4th, you apply for an EIN number. That's an employee identification number in lieu of a social security, because it's not for a private person. It's a one ID that attaches itself to the IRS and the state that identifies who we are as an organization. So we've obtained that EIN number from the IRS, and that identifier is required for tax purposes and is necessary for applying for a 501c3 status. It's also necessary when we start to ask or identify with the public. A lot of times you'll start to see the tax ID on documentation to show that for given it is a tax exempt purpose. And so if that ID is used, that's also the ID that could be used like you do when you have a 1098 interest form from a bank. It tells them their tax ID. So we would have our tax ID that we would identify on literatures as well as for receipts from donors. Any questions at this point? Okay, I can move on, but if you have questions, raise your hand and I can address them right away. When we apply for the EIN, which is the employee identification number from the IRS, that was the simplest way to do it. It's a form, it's a short form. It's a unique short form, excuse my misspelled word there. It's a unique short form that goes to the IRS when you apply for it on the application. And it gives detailed information, like I said, about your organization activities, finances, governance, compliance, that meets in line with questions that the IRS kind of like sets on this form for you to identify and introduce yourself as an application. You pay the application fee, which is associated with filing for the status, and then you have to include the fee with your application. Then we have to wait for approval. We waited for approval at the state level for probably 6 months, and then again at the federal level, which gets the final determination letter. We waited on that probably 9 months almost. Once we submitted our application, then they reviewed it and they determined that it qualifies. And you have to be prepared for a waiting period. Like I just said, it was 6 to 9 months for us because they were backlogged. Number 8, we have to comply with reporting requirements. You cannot overstress that. There are a lot of reporting requirements after you get a 501c status to ensure that the nonprofit complies with ongoing reporting and filing requirements. There's annual information returns, and that has to happen every year for us to maintain the tax exempt status. It is recommended to seek professional guidance from an attorney, accountant, or nonprofit consultant to navigate the process of obtaining it successfully. I don't even know what that is. Filing is required for tax purpose and it is necessary. Oh, the EIN filing number, please excuse me. I just had to get my new glasses. So the EIN is required for tax purpose and is necessary for applying for the 501c status. Everything you do, just like with our Social Security number, our EIN number is the identifier. We filed a Form 1023. That was the waiting period for the federal. And we could have chosen to do the easy form, but the easy form means that you assume that you're not going to, or you have not expected to get more than $50,000 a year in donations in funds over the next 3 years. So with the anticipation that we wanted to get more funds than that to carry out a substantial budget to operate under California expenses, we went ahead and did the 1023, and that's what took us so long. It was a long form, just like you do a short form with taxes. If you don't have that much income and that many write-offs, you could do an easy form for tax purposes. We had to go the long form because we wanted to really fully be in the capacity to receive funds as large as they could come without any limitations. There are a lot of corporate documents to get started, as well as to retain and keep your records in order. And so these are just examples of the corporate documents that we have already in file, and we haven't even began our operations. Just so you know, we had to go in and do a statement of identification saying who we were, and then you can go, and all these documents are public knowledge. You can go and see them by way of our EIN number if you wanted to search out the organization's corporate documents. That's the final letter here that comes in on the right. That is the IRS stamps, the Department of I can't even read, Treasury. That's the letter we're looking for 9 months, and that is actually almost like our birth certificate. We don't want to lose it. It's like our Social Security card with the letter. It's like that SSA. If some of you are getting Social Security, you get that letter every year you need it. It's like your W-2. You need to keep it on file. They don't send one every year though. It's here. It's for our final records. We can maybe get it later, but it will cost. But this is our ID. It's our birth certificate. It's a file that has to be maintained, and you never ever throw away your records. Corporate documents. We had to revise the name, and so we end up having to revise the name. We revised our starting board. We revised some of the beginning, just a platform for getting things started. What happened between 2 presidencies, actually kind of like we fell into 2 different stages of people being in leadership positions and having the authority to be on the executive part of the board. So once we changed, we had to change some things around so that they know who to reach and at what address that we could be known for in the records with the IRS. Just like if you move from your personal home, you would want to notify the IRS so that they know exactly where to find you. So, a lot of accountability. We have to maintain records. Can everybody see this screen? Please unmute and somebody read number 1. Let's just play around with this so I'm not the only voice you hear.
Maintain records. Keep a copy of the IRS determination letter and all relevant documents in a secure and accessible location. Maintain detailed records of your nonprofit's activities, finances, and compliance with IRS regulations.
Very good. Number 2, any volunteer? Update internal documents. Go ahead.
I am driving, so I'm in safe mode, so I can't read right now. Sorry.
No problem. Anyone else want to try it?
I'll read it.
Update. Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Update internal documents. Update your organization's internal documents, including bylaws, articles of incorporation, and governance policies to reflect your 501(c)(3) status. Ensure that your operational procedures align with the requirements for tax-exempt organizations.
Exactly. Acknowledge donors. Inform donors and supporters of your nonprofit's tax-exempt status and provide them with acknowledgement letters for their contributions. They will ask you for that birth certificate that I call the IRS determination letter. They will ask you for that. They will ask you what your tax EIN number is, which is attached to that letter. And they will ask you what your mission statement is. So it becomes a part of your DNA, the way your social security, your phone number is personally. We have to have that as a corporate representation for those that are authorized representatives for this organization to be able to exchange information and to solicit donors and actually just represent the organization for its IRS 501(c)(3) status. File annual information returns. Anybody want to read that one?
We can't see it.
You can't see that one?
We got seek. You at number 6. We're on the thing that says seek. Oh, it's 2 screens coming in.
I can
Okay.
see it. File.
It's 2 screens.
information
Okay.
returns. As a
Go ahead.
tax-exempt organization, you are required to file annual information returns, Form 990, Form 990Z, or Form 990N with the IRS. Ensure timely and accurate filing to maintain your tax-exempt status. I think if you've seen 2, it's your screen. You the PowerPoint, you could change your own screen.
Let's see here.
You could put it in present mode.
Okay, hold on, let me do that. Right.
Just to the right. Which kind of program are you using?
On PowerPoint.
PowerPoint, isn't it up to the
Yeah.
right? Oh.
It should be use presenter view.
There.
It says use presenter is there.
Yeah, you're supposed to, but what's up on the, I never mind. It's fine with me. I don't care.
Okay, so let's see. Let me see where I am here. File. Yes, I'm at number 10. Okay, so number 5, monitor compliance. Stay informed about IRS regulations and requirements for the 501(c)(3). What I like about the IRS.gov is you can read and you can govern, and there are even videos that you can go on and be informed, and you can even sign up for free courses and webinars so that we can stay in compliance with reporting and filing obligations, even questions the IRS will ask and answer on their website about certain things. And that doesn't preclude us from number 6. Seek professional advice. Consider consulting with legal, accounting, or nonprofit compliance professionals to ensure that your organization remains in good standing and follows best practices for tax-exempt organizations. And even though we're tax-exempt and we don't have to file a traditional tax form the way other 1040s are, we do have to fill out a form, which is a 990. And it has to report our income and our standing. Our statement of information has to be an update every 2 years on who is the governance board for the IRS, including names and addresses, including the name and the address for the nonprofit, as well as the representatives of the executive board. That is legal public information, just like your deed to your house. Someone can look it up and see your ownership. They can look for us through ownership and through IRS as an entity. And they can see when we last filed our statement of information. And then there is a rating out there the same way businesses can get rated. There's nonprofit ratings that we can join so that we can start to get business ratings on how our integrity, our accounting, and all of that over time can actually add value and a certain type of performance to the organization. And then finally, number 7, everybody enjoys doing this, right? Engaging in what? Fundraising and program activities. This is what we normally kind of see. This is the showboat of the organizations. This is what we can say we're doing. This is what we can have as our bragging rights. This is actually show the work that we're doing, the committees that we set up, the advisory boards, the connections that we make with the communities, with other organizations, with other partnerships. And that's the part that people may see, but that doesn't preclude the fact that all of these other items are very important to have sustainability and to actually be in a position of integrity and accountability. So when they see us and they engage in fundraising and program activities with us, all these other items are taken care of in the background because they're just as necessary as fundraising. Any questions at this point? Any ideas?
I was just curious, what we have a 501(c) and a 501(c)(6).
So the C6 says that you are an organization that is a real estate company, a real estate trade association. That's what the 6 means. It's a different level, just like a foundation is different. It's a 501(c)(4), but it gives some type of tax advantage. But the reason the 501(c)(3) entity is a surplus and an added value to CAREB is that it can operate with public without membership. Whereas the trade organization with CAREB is based on power from the membership and just sponsorships being supported in our activities like number 7, but they're not part of our decision-making team. And I'll come to that in a minute. You'll see how private plus public is how we're going to be able to make up 100% of the governance or the representation of the board of directors for a nonprofit. Because we're providing support to the public, we also have to have support and representation on the board from the public. And that way we have a wide representation of the different target audiences, the public audiences, the public needs that we may address as a 501(c)(3) entity. Does that clarify that a little bit for you?
Yeah, but the 501(c)(6), you can make money from it, or?
Yes, you can as members. You can make money. We can have, we have activities number 7 and all of that. We do all of that under the trade for real estate. And we're not saying that the trade for real estate is going to be limited to this, but the trade and the brand that we have as a trade association and a membership organization means that the members themselves operate solely the organization. With a C, you include other people that are not necessarily member-based, but they want a seat on the board or they want to be part of the activities that you engage in. But a portion of them can be from the public, meaning they have a say and a representation of a public organization. The 501(c)(6) is really, when you say membership, that makes it private, almost like a foundation.
You said a 4. What's the difference in the 4 when you said we were talking about?
For the foundation, well, remember I said earlier, family
4.
members come together and do a foundation like the Bill Gates Foundation.
Yeah, that's a private project.
That's private. So we are a 6 as CAREB, and we're now a 3 as an extension of CAREB. That is going to include not just CAREB members, but other public people who may want to be on the board to help support the public and the mission of the board. Corporate documents, here they are again. Can't stress them enough. Statement of information every 2 years. And if there's a change and there's an amendment, or we have an initial filing that started October the 5th, 2022, and that was at the state level. Corporate documents again shows the changes that we made. There's the IRS determination letter. That's like our birth certificate on the right, on my right. And then why does, and here we are again with what we were talking about, why does a 501c3 public charity exist? Because we have a designated mission statement that we want to fulfill. It's like an expansion of what we're already doing in CAREB. We want to be able to expand that with public support and with public diversity and with public know-how and with a public impact, not just for members only. So we're supporting a public cause, not to be mistaken as lobbying. We'll talk about that later. We want to offer benefit services and resources to benefit not just the private members, but to the public as well. To improve, remedy, or resolve a stated problem for the benefits of others. That's usually how some organizations get started. They see a problem, they want to solve it, they want to come together with an intentional strategy, a vision, and a mission statement to take care of the problem for a certain targeted audience. Say, for example, if we wanted to take care of the education requirements for foster youth, and we wanted to take young adults from 16 to age 24, and we want foster youth to be exposed to the many careers that are related to the real estate industry. And we wanted to create an internship program so that they have a leg into a career or college. That's a target audience that benefits the public of the citizens. To make a social impact, to create change, or to promote awareness. The whys, the hows, and the whys. How do we get started? What are the activities of operations? Who manages the day-to-day? And when is the best time to start? How do we get started? Does anybody know?
We have to apply. You have to do all the beginning part. You just did all the paperwork. Well, you need a group.
We have to what?
Well, you need to apply with the paperwork, but the paperwork says there has to be, even like an LLC, you have to have like a president, treasurer. So you have to decide what your mission is and then apply for the paperwork.
And then from there, we have to figure out, and we set it on our whole application. What are the activities or the operations that we're going to be doing? Now, who manages the day-to-day operations in a nonprofit, in a 501c3? Any idea?
I think it depends. You know, when I see them set up, we all have a president and a secretary and the treasurer. So the treasurer does the finances and the president, and then you have a second and a third if there's enough people. But
those are the board members, but the day-to-day operations is usually done by an executive director and staff. The board can help with day-to-day operations, especially in a grassroots setting or for a soft launch, as I call it. When you first get started, all hands are on deck with day-to-day operations. You might pick a program, or you might pick an activity like what's coming up, the legislation day that we talked about. That's an activity that could be managed from as a day-to-day operations or seasonal calls or special event. And then you come together as committees to do different parts of the operations. So it's all based on how the organization is set up and growing, and what type of membership and what type of support and what type of man hours are available to carry out the mission of the organization. When is the best time to start? It's just like what we say about realtors. Now it's still a good time to be a realtor. It's still a good time to be in the market for public support of a nonprofit, so that we cover more grounds and we have a stronger impact. So we start now. We start now from all of that paper and all of those corporate documents that we now have as part of our new identity. So let's talk about CAREB as a 501c3. The operations for this 501c3, which is called the CAREB Realtors Foundation, will be operated somewhat like day-to-day operations or under the governance or under the kind of like the spearhead, the what do you call it, the staff lead of the flagship of Black Community Organization for Realtors Advancement. That's called B Cora, and B Cora is kind of like the brand that we're going to use to separate us from just saying CAREB. We're like, it will be the CAREB Foundation, CAREB Realtors Foundation, but B Cora is kind of like this, the affiliate associated with what we're going to be doing beyond the scope of the Black community and the realtors industry at large. So this is where the public comes in with B Cora as a partnership. It's a nonprofit tax exempt entity. It adds value, community-based access, and capacity building opportunities. But the name, the parent name of the organization is the CAREB Realtors Foundation. The tax ID is founded and identified by the CAREB Realtors Foundation. Sharon, are you on? Sharon Robinson? She may not be on.
Yes, I'm on. I just got to my destination.
Okay.
Sorry.
So just at this time, because you guys came up with that name, just kind of like just personalize it for us, how B Cora came into play and the motivation,
Okay.
the seed behind that.
Yeah, as a committee, we discussed it, we hashed over it, and we finally ended up with that name.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty much how we did it. We were trying to find something that would accommodate all of the things that we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we tried to encompass all of the programs that we put into that application.
Mm-hmm.
It was a team effort for sure. It wasn't just me. It was the
And was it
was the
intentional, Sharon, to add the word realtors in there?
yes, it was. But
And
then,
so I
you
have
know,
guests on the phone. So I have guests on the phone. I have guests on the Zoom. So explain why realtors is so significant in our branding and in our trademark and in our service mark.
well, we know why CAREB was even founded. You know, we weren't allowed to be real estate agents as Black people in the beginning. So CAREB founded their own organization and they called it Realtist.
Right.
So I think it was NAREB that did that.
Yeah, NAREB started over 75
yes,
years
but
ago.
we need to get the word Realtist out there so that people know who we are and what we stand for. Democracy and housing. You know that our people are at the very bottom of the list of home ownership. Everybody else is above us.
Right.
And so we're striving to put Black families into homes, you know, and let them know the benefits of owning a home, owning property.
Right.
So we wanted Realtist in the name so that people would know that we were Realtist, that this 501c3 is a Realtist organization, foundation.
Right. And we're striving for the advancement of the impact that we make, not just as members of CAREB and NAREB at the national level, but we want to be able at the state level to advance the opportunities that realtors bring to homeowners and the opportunity that realtors bring to the public, as well as the benefit that realtors bring to the public. And that begins with us letting people know what the word realtors really means and the heartbeat. We call it the spirit of realtors, is that we're doing this to bring our people and to advance our people from the inequities in homeownership, in wealth, in political stance, in the whole fiber of advancement, so that we can become the affluent people that we are, but we have to work it together publicly, privately, and cohesively. And so doing it with a nonprofit and with the history behind NAREP and CAREB is an advancement in itself. It's a milestone for us to be able to now say, we have what it takes to go the next mile and to actually expose and expand the history and the advancement of our people.
Yes, yes, very well said.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other comments? So some of you guys, when you hear realtor, we're not opposed to realtor, but we're holding on to the fact that as realtors, we have a charge and a change that we are actively pursuing. It's a little bit more grind in what we want to do and the results that we expect to see. So even with KRAP, we have what's called a homeownership trigger or homeownership acknowledgement. Once we put a Black family into a home, we want everybody to know it. We want to start counting those numbers because we say that we're undersold and we're underrepresented. But if we don't keep these numbers as to how we're moving this pedal, it'll look like we're not even moving because we already know there's a challenge in real estate as it is, especially in California with our prices. And so that gap between equities and income and economics is already a disparity that we're dealing with. So anytime you guys know, even if y'all can help us, those that are not part of this, but you're our guest today, if you hear of a Black family becoming an owner, please reach out to us. We're on Facebook. Reach out to us. We're careb.org. We're also on Facebook. Reach out and say, hey, kudos. We have another Black family that went into ownership. It doesn't matter if it was none of our realtors that put them there, but we want to be able to celebrate that advancement. Okay, so there are some restrictions when it comes to a 501c3 charitable organization, and that's lobbying. So you got to be careful with lobbying. That does mean that we don't have a place and a voice as citizens individually and collectively, but what the IRS says about this, I took it off word for word. Time spent in informing others about the effects of legislation is oftentimes consistent with the mission of the organization. So they go by how much time are you spending, and if you're calling what you're doing lobbying, then they kind of want to factor that out. But if we're calling it if a substantial amount of time and cost and expenditures go back to determine the test of lobbying, if we're spending 90% of our budget on lobbying, then they're going to say, well, wait a minute, you're not acting as a charitable organization, because lobbying is actually some independent rights that we have as citizens, but it's also a way of making change or impacting someone's decision if we take it too far. It does not mean we cannot have voting campaigns, because that's part of the disparities of our Black people, is that we don't vote and we're not informed. And so we're not as mobilized as we need to be in legislation. We're not as informed in the meaning of laws. Doesn't mean that we can't be advocates, but they do a test to make sure, because another lobbying organization has another type of tax designation. So our tax designation can't be confused with that. If over 20% of a $500,000 annual budget is spent, I said 90, is spent on planned or initiated activities to change, influence, and engage the public for a specific legislative law, then there could be a conflict of interest regarding lobbying activities that go beyond an organization's mission to provide advocacy, awareness, there again, I didn't have my glasses on, awareness, and to participate in general mission activities. So we just need to know our mission and make sure that even if our mission is a cousin to the process and the partnership that we engage in with legislation change, legislation awareness, legislation voices, that we are still coming from the root of who we are, and our mission as a 501c3 is to bring about a public benefit knowledge and to advance change under our umbrella as a nonprofit organization, not as, quote, lobbyists. Does that make it clear for anybody? For everybody? Any questions?
Yeah, it seems like if we spent, there's two items that have been on the agenda for a while that we talk about in our legislative group. We talk about that the 19, with a tax code about housing, and then we talk about landlord tenant rules because it's, so how do they determine what's 20%? That seems interesting to me.
Well, when we volunteered to be a voice and it didn't cost us any money out of our budget, and it's not a line item off of the budget for this organization, people can spend their independent money to go and vote and to go and promote and to go and learn and to hear and to engage. That's citizenship. You can do that as a citizen.
Oh.
But if you say we're doing it under this organization and we actually have funds going into the Democratic Party for this particular person from our budget that is common to this organization, that's the difference. That's the difference. We're all about education and informing. We have to be, because we've been so misinformed and underrepresented. So when we're representing and we're educating and we're clarifying and we're saying, hey, take a look at this and come to a decision. We're going to have a powwow about this conversation. We're going to have a lunch and learn about that legislation bill. We're informing. We're informing. What people do with the information is totally up to them as individual citizens. We're not taking them to the poll and voting for them. We might even take them to the poll, but we can't vote for them. So engagement is totally different from the impact of lobbying. Okay, and so BCORA, like we talked about, the advocacy for realtors advancing the community of realtors advancements is to spearhead the Black community organization for realtors advancement. We call it BCORA, and those initiatives that will serve as a flagship for our organization. African Americans and other members of historically marginalized communities are underrepresented in the real estate market. To advance the Black community of real estate agents and to expand the capacity of the community, the industry, future generations, and our impact amongst professional careers is what that advancement is about. It could be a movement, but it's not lobbying. It's a movement. It's intentional, and we are informing, and we want to see results. But that movement, that mission falls in line with our mission that has been approved because all these words were in our application. So they know we're going to do the Shiva report. They know that we're going to have stats that we're going to teach on. They know that we're talking about the decline in homeownership and the decline in Black wealth. That's advocacy, though. It's not lobbying. And so we exist to support the real estate goals of professionals from underserved communities that might otherwise find it difficult financially to obtain this quality of training. Realtors professionals possess expertise in real estate management, administration, business law, ethics, finance, etc. The Realtors knowledge base includes long-term association and relationship with boards. There it is, policy, legislation, civic engagement, along with management, interpersonal skills, multitasking, effective communications, information technology, accounting, budget, and economics. And even if basket weaving was part of what we wanted to do to help seniors learn how to not de-stress, it's still another way of engaging with our public for a benefit to bring about awareness, a change, or some type of positive impact. That's the existence of a 501c3. That's the real heart of it. And so our mission statement, the CAREB Realtors Foundation will engage in programming and developing Black community organization for Realtors advancement initiatives that serve as the flagship for our organization. As an extension of this mission, BCORA is the driving force that works together to navigate and advance opportunities amongst the Realtors community. We go beyond that, but amongst the Realtors community is what we call home. That's our home base. Our goals are to convene, collaborate, and connect with other like-minded Black real estate brokers, professionals, associates, and industry affiliates, including brokerage, property management, mortgage financing, appraisals, land development, home building, and other influential industry professionals and community advocates. We even have one part of interior design or the new ADU model as far as designing and getting people in tune with what they could do in the industry as far as young generations being able to become professionals and experts in our community of real estate and beyond. So we're just trying to advance opportunities. And that's again with advocacy. I already said that. Simply educating is okay. Any attempt by an organization to advocate for or against a specific legislation by contacting legislations or urging the general public to do so by a call to action is something on the be careful side. But it is acceptable and legal and relevant to if it's relevant to our charitable goals without supporting and opposing a candidate for political office, then we can have that importance as advocacy activities. And it can be a major component of our overall activities, but we did not exist just to, quote, lobby. And it says that in our objectives and our mission, those ideas and those things that we're going to do. Just a few more slides here and then we'll be done. The goals or objectives, which were in our 1023. Somebody said this is a lot. It is, but we wanted you to see that it's not simple. It can be complex. It's integrated, but it could be necessary and it could be carried out with everybody being able to fully understand what it takes to operate in the front, in the back, on the side, with the paperwork, with the corporate documents, with the mission statements, and with the help of people that want to concert together and make an organization that's usually 100%, not 100%, but usually quite built a board of directors that are volunteer based. The staff and the day-to-day can be staffed once funds are put in place to do that. And so that it can also be a business model for other organizations. So number one, we want to improve the quality of the life of people of color. We want to thrive for success and overcome challenges. We want to recognize the traumatic effects and disparities that also exist in mental health and wellness that have hindered equal access to a lot of things for us. And we want to enhance the economic activities and the various components that will foster what I said about career development and the advancement for future generations. That's all part of our document that we submitted was 75 pages. And I'm only giving you highlights of that, but it was 75 pages because we wanted to make sure that we had an encyclopedia that we could refer to, that anybody could see frameworks and could find themselves at least on one of those pages to say, I can help with that. Yeah, that sounds like me. You don't have to be able to do it all, but yeah, that touches with my mission in my life. And so I have a purpose that aligns up with what you guys are doing and what you stand for. And then we have to do a structure like we do now with CAREB or any other board, any other church, any other organization, YMCA, Father Joe's Village. Everyone has a board of directors and they have a nonprofit organization chart that defines their systems and their structures. This is a real simple one, but this is how it can build. And so when we have our founding board of directors, which is going to be governed by our bylaws and our policy and procedures, we have a skeleton founding board of directors now, and then the day-to-day operations are going to be actually executed as well. And they will cover these things: financial management, accounting, business, grants. This is the business part of a nonprofit. Just because you have a nonprofit does not mean you don't operate like a business. It's more than charitable ideas. There is an infrastructure that has to come into play if you want to accomplish those things beyond just starting a board. And so then we did the 1023 exemption application. We had already did our articles of incorporation in October. Then we had a 501c committee that lasted probably 2 years and is still not finished. And then we had our IRS determination letter that we got in February. We submitted our application in July. The last part of the 501c3 to get the application ready probably took us 3 to 6 months to get that done. And then in July we filed, and then, 7 months later, We got the letter. Now we're in the process, which I submitted on April the 15th. Once you get a determination letter from the IRS, you have to then go back to the state, even though you filed your articles with them, and say, hey, IRS says we exist. Hey, IRS gave us our birth certificate. Here it is. Now we want you to put us in your system as not only an existing corporation, but now we're an existing corporation that has an exempt status with a 501c at the California state level, as well as at the IRS level, which is nationally. And so now we're waiting on that letter to marry itself up with the state, and then they'll send us a letter as well. But most of the time people ask for the federal IRS letter, not the state, but we still have to have that in our records to operate. So we're gonna have a founding board of directors that's gonna be right now presiding president. It's going to help us make up this board, and then that presiding president right now serves as our interim executive director. One more thing to add to the plate for our Madam Rhea Cotton. So we're gonna be praying for that position so that we can actually have our board to be designed up. 49% will be the CAREB leadership membership from our membership pool, and 51% will come out of the public industry community representation. So we have to recruit, we have to vote it in, and then we have to define what the roles and the duties of the executive director would be. This is like a business. Then I have job opportunities, and then we have to propose the next step for launching the nonprofit operations. And then these are just basic ideas, a strategic meeting to get these laws in order, get the structure, decide what structure we want, get a plan of action, take a look at who's going to be financially buying in. Hopefully board members that want to be part of it are already going to buy into it. You don't need board members that don't buy into or believe in your mission, because then your board becomes stagnant automatically. And then we go and we solicit partnerships that are interested in giving us donation and supporting our mission-driven milestones. And then we implement operations and activities. Sounds simple, not as simple, but it's necessary. And these are other things. We do the same thing. There's operational objectives, fundraising goals, startup funds, a commitment, target goals to promote awareness. How do we tell people we have our 501c3? How do we target which audiences? Who do we go to? Who do we solicit gifts from? How do we organize special campaigns? Similar to how we already have a template right now for CAREB's corporate sponsorship. So we have a great leader in the person of Madam Rhea Cotton that has already set this up for us, and we can actually kind of use that same template and that same spirit of realtors to make this happen for us. Now, where do you fit into the organization, or where do you fit into a 501c world? What's your personal story? You have shared connections, you have social media. What's your individual buy-in? Or what level of commitment? Do you want to provide financial support? Some people just are donors. They're like, I'll just support. I'll give you a donation, and I'll commit to a certain donation or a certain event, or I'll follow you on Facebook, and I'll share you, and I'll come to the things that interest me, and that'll help promote, market, and make people realize that we are advancing ourselves beyond CAREB into a 501c3 entity.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ethel. Thank you.
Okay.
We're getting close to the 5 minutes before 1 o'clock, and I want to make sure we open it up for questions.
Okay.
At this point. I mean, now, are you pretty much done with your presentation?
Oh, yes, I am. All I said is, what is your elevation story? Share your personal cause and invite others.
Okay, no, I appreciate it, and we definitely appreciate you giving us this information. Now, the question I'm going to have is, if we were to take away 3 takeaways from this Zoom, what would those be? You know, what would those be? Because we were all over the place, and I thought you were going to touch a little bit more personally on our 501c3 and what we were going to do, since you're the chair of it, and where we're going. And maybe you can also give maybe the next date that the committee is going to meet, so maybe some of these people on the call can join that committee so we can get that going. But I don't want to steal your thunder. Can you go ahead and answer the first question for us, please?
So the most important thing is corporate documents. 3. Corporate documents, knowing your mission, and building a board. And that's where the 501c3 is going to come in and help. And so the next time we put out this meeting, I will actually forward you. The reason I didn't put it on the calendar now is because we have some pressing things right now on our calendar with our existing, and we want the attention to be fully recognized. So I'm going to get with Madam Rhea, look at the calendar, put it out there and run it so that people really have an opportunity to take time and say, yes, I want to be part of this. And yes, these slides could be made available. Someone asked that question. Yes, it's a lot of information, but we needed a record. We needed an encyclopedia. We needed a living document that would actually serve so that people would fully understand the intensity, the simplicity, and the complexity, but the opportunity that comes with a 501c3.
I have an
Okay.
apt question. You've been in existence for a long time. I thought it was a 501c3, so it's been a 501c6 all this time?
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's a 501c3 now under the operation of CAREB Realtors Foundation, which adds a level of operations to the existing 501c6. It doesn't replace it. It doesn't make it go away. It just empowers it.
Does NAREB have the same thing?
Sure, they do.
Oh.
And of some of our other chapters throughout the state, throughout other states.
Do our local chapters, do they get this? So, I mean, don't we have to all follow the same mission statement?
The mission statement doesn't change from CAREB. This is just an added, how should I say? This is an added tool.
No, I get it. No, I mean the local, like ARPB, aren't they supposed to have the same mission statement as CAREB?
No, CAREB has a mission statement as a state, and each local board has a mission statement that supports it, accents it, and actually promotes it, but they actually have their own, put it this way, they live in their own village, but they actually come to the state to intertwine with us. But every village has its own level of components and cultural dynamics and people.
That's
to
what I
help
wondered.
fulfill
That's
it.
what I thought you could write your own.
They
And
can.
Yeah.
Yes. As long as it's supportive and doesn't contradict the overall mission of the state and even the national.
Is this the whole document in some like Google documents that like the people, like the board or the president can see, like Eric? Or, is there some way we can get it, or
this presentation?
No, I meant these kind of. Well, this is the document itself. So if we want to copy something from it, we can copy it.
Yes, once we finalize it, yes, we can. Yes.
Yeah.
And some started this way from others. I think we got some help from another board, and then we personalized it for ourselves.
Okay, great. So are there any other questions for Ethel? Because before we go, I did want to give our Madam President one more time to, tell us anything that we may have not gotten, because there were some more people that joined the call after her announcement. Are you able to do that, Madam Rhea, by any chance? I didn't want to put you on the spot if I ain't heard from her. Okay. Well, okay, doesn't look like she's there. Okay, not a problem. So actually, Ethel, thank you very much for your presentation. If you want to get a hold of Ethel, how do they get a hold of you, Ethel, if they will have any more questions off site? Did your last slide have your contact information or anything like that?
No, Sims, let me put it in the chat.
Okay, that would be great.
SimsChaplain@gmail.
Okay, yes, if you could put in the chat, that'd be greatly appreciated. As usual, we have these power hours every other Thursday. We're back on track. And for May 9th, we will be having Marissa Fletcher as our solar expert there. And then on May 23rd, we'll be having Chase, one of our sponsors, will be giving us an excellent program. We will be having incentives for you to join both of those programs, so stay on the lookout. Join the programs, win a prize. I mean, we are really trying to get attendance up. But we appreciate everybody coming today, being a part of this power hour. And again, we thank Ethel again for her knowledge and her wisdom. And thank you for sharing with us. You guys have a great rest of the day and amazing weekend. See you soon. And some of you in Sacramento.